most of those places are run down. They're not the kind of a place that I would like to live in nor raise children in. I wouldn't want to raise my own there, and I certainly wouldn't want to raise my nursery children because they mean a lot to me. I think the environment's got everything in the world to do with how you raise a child.
Well, what are you going to do now?
Did he threaten you in any way?
No, he did not.
Were you afraid? Have you ever been held up before?
No, I've never been held up before.
What was going through your mind while all this was going on?
To try and get all of the alarm systems set off.
Were you able to set off any alarm system before you actually got away?
I hope I did in time.
Health violations occur every day at every dump or landfill in Fort Worth and in Tarrant County. Some of the violations include no daily coverage of garbage and drainage into streams, rivers, and lakes, dangerous underground fires, garbage dumped directly into water that eventually drains into the Trinity River, and even hogs feeding upon open trash. I visited 6 landfills over the weekend, 3 regulated by the county and 3 regulated by the city of Fort Worth. County inspectors say it's better to have some violations at landfills and know where to put the garbage at all. City Health Director Roy Adams gives his opinion of the violations.
Well, in knowing actually the three major sites that the city operates, and I'm really not aware of any real major violations. Now, all of our dumps are located in areas where they could end up, drainage from them, but end up into a creek or directly into a lake. But there are proper controls, and we have carried out a routine sampling program to be sure that no drainage is entering the streams, and not sure that we could locate a dump ground in Tarrant County that wouldn't end up in one of our streams if we didn't put forth some controls.
Mr. Adams, there's a privately owned landfill on Pipeline Road that the city supposedly maintains where there's dumping going on directly into water. Some hogs are running loose in the dump itself. Are you aware of this landfill?
I'm aware of the dump, but I'm not aware of just what the violations are at this time. It's been several months since I've seen this dump, so I would be hesitant to say just what violations, and probably there are some. But the severity of it is, I'd have to go take a look at it first.
Adams says the city will probably have to eventually haul garbage up to 50 or 100 miles away, but violations of health regulations will probably continue until a better method of disposal can be found. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
Dr. Williams, what did you see as the role of the university today?
Well, the role of the university has really not changed. It simply is elaborated on the basis of modern times. It is to mature people for leadership positions. It is to preserve the knowledge we have and to help people learn how to discover new knowledge. It is to add, basically, to the growth of young people into maturity.
Do you think that education has kept pace with the modern technology that we have encountered in the past 20 years?
I think education has kept pace very well indeed. As a matter of fact, collegiate education is blended with the research, and so it discovers the education it discovers the knowledge it keeps pace with.
The Move, Forest Hill. Today, three women, Mrs. Judy Johnson, Mrs. Detilda Gore, and Mrs. Ann Sanders, presented a petition with 190 signatures on it to Jim Stratton, who is the chief land agent of the Tarrant County Water Control and Improvement District Number 1. Mrs. Sanders, what did Mr. Stratton tell you?
He promised us that he and his board would look into this matter, take aerial surveys, and find out just where the obstruction is that keeps backing this water up. And they promised us a meeting in 2 weeks.
And you do have a definite meeting set in 2 weeks?
We pray we do.
Between 500 and 600 children live in this general area, and as more homes are being completed and more families are moving in, those families will also have children. Water has always been a Pied Piper for children, and the children of Carriage Hill area are no different. Last year, residents say, this was nothing but a dry ditch. Today it's a death-dealing monster, and residents want something done about it, and in a hurry.
The program calls for communicating with all the citizens of the Dallas area to acquaint them with the fact that they can bring aluminum beverage containers to a number of collection points in and around the city where they will be paid for the aluminum cans they bring in, thus raising money for their favorite charity, for the group they belong to, or whatever their purpose is. We will then take these cans, we'll process them here into bulk bundles in the Dallas area at a scrap material plant. We'll put them on boxcars. We'll ship the aluminum cans back to a large plant that Alcoa has near Evansville, Indiana, where we will remelt them into metallic aluminum. We will then roll it back into aluminum sheet, and aluminum cans will be made out of it again, completing a circle process that, as I say, we hope will help solve the litter program and help conserve a natural resource.
Then I noticed on the bottom paragraph it said, put all 50s, 20s, and 100s. And then it also said on it, don't activate any of the alarms. And so I went on and gave him the 20s and 10s and 50s that were in my drawer. And then he asked, and he said, go ahead and give me some dimes, and rocked back on his heels. And then I opened the drawer further and gave him the rest of my 10s. And then he asked me to go ahead and put the note in the shopping bag, and which I did. And then he said, wait until I leave the bank to even get up.
more individualization of instruction. Some teachers are writing curriculum that they use, writing the books they use, and it's different in that it's more practical, and there's more work in which students learn on the job and go off the job and practice what they've been taught.
Mrs. Railsback, do you feel that the textbook industry has had too much of a dictatorial effect on the curriculum in public schools?
Well, I'm not in favor of textbook usage exclusively, and neither is the textbook company. They've done a beautiful job of doing what they should do, is to present a textbook, and they couldn't do otherwise under the circumstances. But right now, textbooks are changing just as curriculum is, and so are those who publish textbooks.
Major, what chance do you think the 52s have against the newer 111s?
Oh, a real fine chance. I think we're going to win it all.
Well, aren't you at an automatic disadvantage because of the newer instrumentation?
Yeah, but we're going to make up for that with just talent.
Do you think you have more talent than the 111 crews?
Yes, I sure do.
If it comes to a choice between the 111s and saving their reputation and winning for the B-52s, what are you going to suggest?
I suggest we win it all.
In other words, Cars will take home the trophies.
You betcha. We'll let them have second.
Captain, your position is vital on the crew. How do you feel about the chances of the B-52?
Oh, we stand a good chance.
Even against the British Vulcan?
Oh, yeah, we beat them all the time.
You think you're going to beat them this time?
Got to.
The Indian Center themselves is for social and educational and recreational purposes, for Indian people to get together and reinforce themselves, knowing that there are other people in the community, and trying to work to their specific problem, whether it be employment, housing, health, or whatever.
It's kind of an ethnic war on poverty, or?
Yes, it really is, and we found that that there is a sense of strength in getting together and solving the problems. Being an Indian and getting together, same as the Mexican American people find strength in getting together and working toward their problems, because their language is different and customs are different, and getting together kind of helps reinforce your strength. And that's the reason that centers have been, have been cropping up in most urban communities, and this is why we're, particularly Americans for Indian Opportunity, supporting this center.
Well, we would seek through local sources of information to develop the facts, and I would ask our regional director, Mr. Charles Green, who is seated on my immediate left, to assemble the information from whatever sources he believes to be most knowledgeable.
If this were the case, what would be your reaction?
Well, I think it would be, I really don't think it's appropriate or desirable to try to anticipate what conclusion I might reach on hypothetical facts.
What are some of the possible conclusions?
I could only say that they range from the determination that the group in issue is not appropriately constituted to carry out the program, to possible steps that might affect who was in charge and so on. But I don't think that generalizations in this kind of situation are particularly useful.
Here we have the richest company in the United States at a time which the greatest national problem is inflation, requesting what I consider an extremely inflationary rate increase in all of the cities that they serve in the state of Texas, and keep in mind that they make more money here than in any other state in the United States. This last year, for the first time, Oklahoma got ahead of them. But they make 8.9% return, according to the Federal Communications Commission here in Texas, and a great deal of that money is made in Dallas, and I cannot believe they can make 8.9% in this state and only make 5% here in Dallas. I think the figures are wrong. I think they're 100% wrong.
Has Ray Crowder, the current contractor, fulfilled his requirements according to the original contract?
I think it's fair to say he has, and the action taken by the council on the committee's recommendation is in no manner of means an indictment of the Ray Crowder service. In my judgment, Ray Crowder has complied with the ordinance as it was written. He's complied with a contract as it was written, and the bid specifications as they were written, generally. And so then our changes today are not a reflection on Ray Crowder. It's simply a reflection of our recognition in the municipal government of the city of Fort Worth that we want to and need to raise the level of emergency medical service delivered to the acutely ill or injured.
Is the Indian's future better in developing his own culture rather than assimilating into the white community?
Well, that's been the policy of the federal government, and it hasn't worked. We're larger in number than we were, 10, 20, 50 years ago, and that we have not been assimilated. And so because that hasn't worked, it means that there is strength in being an Indian, and that taking pride on that, knowing who you are really helps you to be what you want to be. And if an Indian person wants to be an astronaut or a businessman or whatever, and that he can still keep his language and know his customs of history of the past, and still be an active member of the community. And I think that's both is possible.
One thing I think people don't realize is that actually here in Dallas we have a larger crime rate than is really known by the people. For example, in shoplifting, last year alone, it was $59 million in the Dallas County. And in just the city of Dallas alone, it was $39 million.
What does that add up to per family?
Well, believe it or not, it's $123 a year.
What does the Committee on Citizens Who Care plan to do about this problem?
Well, of course, the primary thing is to get into the various areas of the churches, the schools, and then, of course, have the media really give us some assistance in public service work, such as billboards, radio, television, and so forth.
The prime offenders of this multi-million-dollar heist are the housewife, the teenage girl, the older woman, the teenage boy, in that order. The problem is that people don't seem to realize that shoplifting is a crime. In fact, it carries all the penalties of a crime. 2 years or a $1,000 fine for a first offense, up to 10 years for a theft over $50. Plus the fact that the store losses are passed along to the consumer in the form of higher prices. This is Judy Hanna reporting, Channel 8 News.
You're wanting the entire Rebel theme reinstated, is that correct?
Sir, it's not a question of reinstating it. It's a question, it is our theme, and we're trying to preserve it. The students have voted 3 times to keep our Rebel theme. It's been under attack by some groups, but we voted 3 times to keep it. So it's not a question of reinstating it, it's a question of keeping it.
Why do you think Dean Crary is opposed to your organization?
Well, I think, well, first of all, Dean Crary has been associated with various radical black militant groups on campus. She's not a member, of course, but she's been an ardent supporter of the black militant groups, and she's been speaking to black militant groups.
The customer who wants telephone service has every right to expect to get that service. We can't delay and wait, and we can't call a halt to higher costs or wait until the buy market improves. We've got to keep moving, we've got to keep building. But we must have rates in the meantime that will allow us and you to meet the needs of Dallas. We are willing to settle for an increase of $6.2 million. That's $2.7 million below our original request, which we feel is entirely needed and warranted. Yet we are willing to make this settlement to try and conclude this case, which has been going on so long. The rates I mentioned earlier will produce an increase of $6.2 million, or an overall increase of 7.4%.
What is the specific purpose for this organization in Dallas?
In Dallas, in our findings throughout the country, we found most urban Indians trying to find their way in the cities. They come from rural communities or reservations, and they
Well, I think it certainly means that it's a failure by the standard. Have we ended poverty in America? There's no question about that. Various things have been done that have accomplished some good. I think the Head Start program was one byproduct of the war on poverty that has accomplished very positive results. I think the community action programs have helped to bring groups together in parts of our inner cities where they have participated on a broader basis in coping with the problems of the inner city. And of course, you never know how bad things would have been if we hadn't tried to do something about the identifiable deficiencies and needs.
Competitive business, and yet you only ask for the smallest amount of income.
What we have done is to make, as a requirement for ambulance attendants, a 72-hour training course, which will be handled by the Tarrant County Junior College beginning the 1st of January 1971. As a part of this 72-hour training course will be a course in cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which is a very critical area, we feel, for ambulance attendants to be proficient in. The other area that the ordinance revisions require is in the area of response time.